Hello everyone, Adrienne here. So, if you guys have been following me for a while, you know that I grew up watching the original Dark Shadows television series that ran from 1966 to 1971. My mom and my brother and I would watch reruns of it on Sci-Fi. Now it's Sci-Fi. I don't really understand why they did that. It's weird. In the mid to late 90s and into the early 2000s. My mom would actually tape it so that we could all watch it together. I have some pretty fond memories of watching Dark Shadows as a kid, especially with my mom having the windows open in her bedroom during a thunderstorm, candles lit on the dressers and nightstands while we watched it. That's like one of my favorite memories of childhood. No wonder I turned out the way I did. Probably the reason. So it was through watching this that I learned about tarot cards.
The tarot cards give us access to knowledge of the occult, which cannot be transmitted either orally or in writing.
Does every card have a different meaning?
No, but the meaning of each card is directly in relation to the card that it's near.
I'm afraid I don't understand at all.
Perhaps we'd better do this some other time.
What's the matter?
I never suspected it would be this bad.
What are you talking about? Please tell me what you see.
Mrs. Collins, I'm afraid my interpretation of the cards will not please you.
I want you to tell me.
All right. This card is the Lover. A strong, positive card, but it is inverted.
What does that mean?
In that position, it is a symbol of separation. You can see that it is preceded by death and followed by the Chariot.
Is that bad?
The Death card signals the end of a love between two people. The Chariot brings us revelation of a betrayal.
What kind of betrayal?
I don't wish to read anymore.
So I became absolutely fascinated with the entire concept of tarot cards and even got my first tarot deck as a gift from my mom when I was about 11 years old. Since then, I've steadily studied up on and collected a few tarot decks. The decks are few, admittedly, but they are each very, very unique. I know I haven't talked about tarot cards at all on my channel, but they are definitely a passion and an interest of mine. So I'm enthralled with the history, the meanings, and above all, the interpretations of the cards rendered by many artists through the ages. So, why am I bringing this up now? This just segues into today's video. Not only did I want to do a review of a tarot deck, but I also wanted to shine the spotlight on one of my favorite Gothic artists whose work I think deserves to be celebrated and recognized. So earlier this year, Abigail Larson released a tarot deck in collaboration with tarot expert Sasha Graham. As an enormous fan of hers, the second I heard about this deck, I was positively thrilled and anxiously awaited its release. So here is the Darkwood Tarot in question. Oh my god, I will be getting into this, but I do want to talk just a little bit more about Abigail Larson. So I have featured a few pieces by Abigail Larson in my video on Songs of Terror, a Gothic tribute to Edgar Allan Poe, and I wanted to feature them because they just accompanied the passages I featured in the video in question so perfectly that I would have been remiss to not include them. They were just totally necessary. I wanted to draw an emotional connection between the music, the text, and Gothic artwork that was inspired by the text. That was my intention. A common thread that I notice among a lot of Gothic artists out there is that they will heavily rely on jewel tones, and a little bit too much at that, in my personal opinion. What I adore about Abigail Larson's artwork is that she uses those stunning jewel tones that we often associate with Gothic art very sparingly, which is really nice, but will primarily use like muted gray and olive tones in her artwork to balance it out and really make the jewel tones a real treasure among her pieces. Her style is very reminiscent of Guillermo del Toro, Edward Gorey, and Tim Burton. Like, all really wonderful visual artists I think we all can get behind. So her tarot deck is absolutely no exception. I love the muted gold, olive, and gray colors that she focuses on in her artwork, and that really shines here. I've studied the Rider-Waite, I think that's how you pronounce it, tarot deck, which was very much a trendsetter for tarot in the early 20th century, and I tried to compare modern decks to the standard that was set. So while unique and beautiful, that framework is faithfully adhered to in this tarot deck. For example, the original card of Strength from the Rider-Waite tarot deck features a woman dressed in white taming a lion. Strength represents power, energy, action, courage, success, and honors. Pretty cool. With the Dark Woods Tarot, Strength is depicted as a woman, still dressed in white, maintaining her power in taming a cobra with masterful skill and concentration. I thought that was a really unique take on it. As I understand it, in tarot, any figure that is dressed in white is supposed to be a representation of your higher spiritual self, and that is definitely reflected here in this particular card. Yet, I really like the new interpretation here of Strength represented by the woman doing a yogi pose and all of her chakras depicted in her jewelry, and I feel like it calls forth the idea of the higher self even more because of the depiction of the chakras. But that is just one example of this tarot deck being so faithful to the original Rider-Waite tarot deck, even still being a unique establishment in tarot card decks as a whole. I'll show you some of my favorite cards design-wise in this deck. So, the High Priestess, obviously. I really enjoy the depiction of the High Priestess in any tarot deck that I have in my possession. So cool. The Lovers. We actually have the Lovers hung up in our bedroom because I actually contacted Miss Larson and I said, hey, I really love the artwork for the Lovers here. Is it at all possible I can get a poster print of this? And she spoke with the publisher and she was able to post some of the designs from her tarot deck in her Society 6 shop, which is so cool. So as a result, the Lovers is hanging in our bedroom. So I'm so happy about that. It's great. Anyway, I also love Strength, as I previously mentioned. The Star, the Moon, and Judgment. All of the aces here are amazing as well. And I really like that pentacles are represented as sand dollars. That's really unique. I really have not seen a tarot deck do that before, which is really cool. And it again calls forth that idea of the five-pointed star occurring in nature. Another, I guess, object in nature that the five-pointed star appears in is if you slice an apple horizontally. It's so cool. Love it. I also really love the design of the Three of Swords and the Nine of Swords. Another thing I really like, and you'll see this in her other pieces of art in this video, is that she doesn't show all white people in her artwork, as a lot of Gothic artists have a tendency to do. She does show people of different races and ethnicities. It's pretty great. Another thing too, I love that this deck is so inherently feminine. Almost all of the figures depicted in the cards are female, even the magician. So the ones that aren't female or male are either anthropomorphized animals or trees, which is a really, really cool idea. As for the accompanying book, I found it to be brilliantly written by the renowned tarot expert Sasha Graham. The whole premise was diving into your shadow self, and the tarot is just another tool to do that. Both the tarot deck and the book cited this as a recurring theme to help you achieve a better state of mind and ultimately a more fulfilling life. The shadow self is also referred to as the subconscious and the ego if you really want to go into psychological terms. Being someone who is interested in psychology as well as tarot, that definitely appealed to me. Instead of focusing on tarot reversals, which has always been something I've struggled with, this deck and book focus more on a new interpretation of reversals. Instead of thinking of the exact opposite of a card's original meaning, as would be the case in a traditional reversal, the book encourages you to look at reversals as the shadow of a card, and alternately asks you to examine the qualities of the card in a dark, nefarious, and extreme way. The perfect example that the book gives would be the dark qualities of the Empress. The original meaning of the Empress would represent creativity, so a conventional reversal would mean narrow-minded, whereas the shadow meaning may ask you to think about those you have hurt in your own creative process. Have you belittled, disparaged, destroyed, or been critical or cruel when someone shared their creation with you? So something really, really interesting to think about. So each shadow position asks you to examine whether something negative you may have done was something that you took accountability for. If you didn't, it goes into your shadow self. Seriously, this is a really fascinating concept, and it really makes you look at yourself and at tarot in a completely different light. I just found this entire book, as well as the tarot, to be empowering and very enlightening. Here's actually a passage that basically combines those two things, and I think you'll see what I mean. The more we ignore and repress inner demons, the hungrier, more vicious, and more destructive they become. When we embrace the unknown, confront clinging fears, and meet and greet our shadow side, we uncover glittering treasures of the soul. Hidden talents emerge and latent abilities spring to life. Evolution unfolds. Like seeds sprouting deep inside dark, damp earth, we root. This enables us to reach into the light and manifest something new. I've definitely found that to be the case. This book also offers ideas for a tarot journal, which encouraged me to start journaling again. My first entry that I did for my journal was Dark Thoughts. This initially was encouraged by my voice teacher when I had a bad lesson about a month ago. Everything was just super fucked up. I just hate it when that happens. I was getting incredibly angry and impatient at myself for not executing the pieces we were working on perfectly, and this was after receiving a really exciting offer from another musical project. Don't you just love your brain? So all I could think about after I got this offer was, you're a fuck up. Look at those competitions you bombed and got trashed at by the judges. What makes you think you deserve to work with these musicians? They're way out of your league. You don't stand a chance. So that's all I can think about after being presented with an exciting opportunity. It sucks. So when I was having that bad voice lesson, my voice teacher said, you're experiencing subconscious self-sabotage born from self-doubt. You get this awesome opportunity and you don't think you deserve it. Yeah, definitely. That was definitely the case. So I started documenting that in my tarot journal from that point. There was an assignment in that book to write out your darkest thoughts, reanalyze them, and try to reframe it into a positive perspective. I wrote it out. I dissected it. I chose a card or two to represent how I felt so that I could look at it from a different perspective. For this in particular, I felt a little bit of the shadow reversal of the Chariot and a lot of the Nine of Swords. I felt scatterbrained, unfocused, restless, and I was way too hard on myself when presented with a great opportunity. A lot of feelings of imposter syndrome. Just like, this whole thing was an accident, it was a social experiment, whatever. Again, don't you just love your brain? After I did that deep dive, made that association, made that journal entry, I felt a lot better. And I felt like I could rationalize those feelings so that if they do come up again, I can better deal with it. I have to remind myself that I do a lot of work on my voice study already, and even legends like Jessie Norman, adore her, have off days. And I remember what advice she gave to young aspiring singers, dancers, and other artists. She said that you spend a lot more time rehearsing and practicing than you do actually on stage performing. Enjoy the preparation, enjoy the work. And that was definitely a positive spin that I could apply to the dark thoughts I'd initially spewed out onto the page. And I've just been in a better space mentally since doing that. See, before I had been so preoccupied with executing everything involving my singing perfectly, because in my mind, anything short of perfection was not good enough and meant I was a failure. When I had to confront that rejection sensitivity that sprang up from years ago that I tried just shoving down when I got trashed by judges at competitions and, emotionally degraded by my old voice teacher, I was able to address that aspect of the shadow self, eliminate it by turning it into something positive, and basically get out of my own way, which, sometimes we get in our own way. You know how it is. Which, by the way, I've been making enormous strides that my voice teacher initially thought that I wouldn't be making until I was about 30. I just turned 26, and I'm overcoming those hurdles because I'm learning to enjoy the preparation, training, and work instead of worrying so much about being perfect all the time. And trust me, dramatic voices have enough to worry about. There are other types of entries you can do as well, such as astrological notes, card-a-day polls, dream interpretations, a general journal, original and favorite tarot spreads, psychic pops and intuitive hits, real-life situations and people as cards, which is kind of what I did with my Dark Thoughts entry, shadow self, tarot spells, and a symbol dictionary, just to name a few. So now that we've discussed the tarot deck, I do want to discuss the artist herself. So I'm going to read her biography to you on her website. Growing up, Abigail had romantic ideas of becoming an opera singer and joining a carnival one day, though neither worked out due to her terrible stage fright. Girl, I feel you so hard on that. Instead, she found she could still put her daydreams on paper and eventually found a much more suitable career for herself in the world of fantasy illustration. Abigail works primarily with pencil, ink, watercolor, and Photoshop, creating a unique mixed media illustration. She enjoys the strange and archaic, so when she's not drawing, she can likely be found watching reruns of Dark Shadows. That just fills me with so much joy. You guys have no idea. Traveling, researching bizarre myths and legends, or spending time with her favorite long-leggedy beasts. Nice. Ghosts, ghouls, and other things that go bump in the night. Hell yeah. Her greatest inspirations are fairy tales, folklore, and ghost stories, the works of Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft, the Brothers Grimm, Shirley Jackson, Angela Carter, and many classic Gothic works of fiction, such as Dracula and Frankenstein, have always stirred her imagination. Girl, I want to be your friend. I want to be your best friend. She's awesome. Abigail's work has been shown extensively throughout America, from New York City to Los Angeles, as well as galleries in London, Paris, and Madrid. Nice. She currently resides in Turin, Italy, with her husband David. I'm guessing that's how you say it. But yeah, cool. I love it. So I just wanted to share a little bit about her with you guys because she's so good. So here are some pieces that I wanted to show you from different categories as far as her artistic inspiration is concerned. So I'm really excited to share them with you. I really am. Also, I apologize if my voice sounds a little funny. The first half of my video I filmed before a voice lesson. The second half I filmed after my voice lesson. So my voice is just a tiny bit shot. I do apologize if it does sound shot. I'm so sorry. So here are some pieces inspired by Edgar Allan Poe, which I was happy to show in the video I did talking about Songs of Terror, a Gothic tribute to Edgar Allan Poe. So here is Berenice. What I really like about this is that it really captures the gory, shocking element of the story. As a matter of fact, Berenice was, I think it was the first real horror story that Edgar Allan Poe ever published. And what's funny is that it was considered to be so gruesome at the time that he first published it that he had to write a formal apology for writing it because it was just too gruesome for the general public. Nice. So this next one is Edgar Allan Poe. I really like how Abigail captured all of the elements of his creations that have escaped from his mind that we've had the privilege of consuming via his work put on paper. So you see him holding the mask from The Mask of the Red Death. You see the gravestone of Lenore, and lots of other elements that we associate with Edgar Allan Poe. It's beautiful. This next one is Annabel Lee. Again, I did feature this in my video on Songs of Terror, and I just love the ghostly faces that are just sitting and floating in the sea foam. It's so beautiful. And I love the moonlight. So this really captures the essence of the poem, and I adore it. I really do. So this next one is Madeleine Usher. What I really like about this one is that it perfectly captures that moment in The Fall of the House of Usher where Madeleine escapes from her coffin and is searching for Roderick to hunt him down and kill him. It's great, and I love the blood on her face. I love the blood on her hands. And this is a perfect, like, artistic representation of that part in the movie Fall of the House of Usher, where Madeleine is trying to hunt Roderick down, and that part where she holds her hands down and screams with the blood on her hands. I just love it! Ah! It just makes me so happy. I'm sorry. And the last one in this category that I'd like to show you is Lychee. Of course, it comes as no surprise that I would like any piece that Abigail creates inspired by the story Lychee, which is my favorite story by Edgar Allan Poe. And if you look behind me, you will see this piece actually on display on my set now. I just felt it was a better way to pull everything on my set together to capture my aesthetic and my personality here. And the fact that this is my favorite story by Edgar Allan Poe and my namesake here on all of my social media. I love it. I absolutely love it. I got this on Society 6, by the way, on her shop. So here are some pieces from her series inspired by Beauty and the Beast. I just can't get over how beautiful they are. So this first one is Through the Black Wood. Pretty self-explanatory. I love how sinister it looks. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Then there's Entrance. Again, self-explanatory. Those of you who are familiar with the story are familiar with each part. Asleep in the Library. This is one I actually have up in our living room. It is definitely one of my all-time favorites by her, and it's definitely my favorite as part of the Beauty and the Beast series. It proudly hangs in my living room, and it's just wonderful. When I showed it to Kenny when I first got it, he loved it, so we were totally cool with putting it up. It's great, and kind of symbolic. We have it next to one of our bookcases. And then we have The Parlor. Again, beautiful piece. Just, it's adorable. I'm sorry, it's just so cute. And then True Love. Again, lovely, beautiful. I just really love the aesthetic that she brought to the classic fairy tale that we all love without it being stereotypical. Again, she truly is unique among Gothic artists in the fact that she doesn't use jewel tones to excess. She uses them very sparingly and wisely. It's great. And here are some other pieces inspired by Gothic literature. These next two pieces are going to be from the story Carmilla by J. Sheridan Le Fanu. I haven't read it in a very long time, but I'm thinking of revisiting it pretty soon because it seems like a wonderful piece of literature I'd like to share with you while, you know, I've been trying to be conscientious of avoiding vampire stories. But anyway, so here's the first version. Very beautiful, really seductive, really rich in color, and sexy. Very sexy. And same thing with the other one that I'll show you here. This next one is Spell of Shadow, and I really love her depiction of Dracula in all of her pieces. They are just really beautiful, and I like that she doesn't just do really stereotypical scenes from Dracula. She actually captures moments from the story, and I love it when artists do that. And then we have The Blue for Lady, the frightening encounter that this child has with Lucy after she's been turned into a vampire. Cool. It's so cool. Mary Shelley and her creation. You know, Mary Shelley was brilliant, and I love that Abigail captured basically Mary just thinking about this amazing character in Gothic fiction many, many years ago. Like, I really don't know what she stumbled into, but it's great. It's Really, really great. Here is Jekyll and Hyde. Again, really cool. I love the duality. I really love the tones used. It's gorgeous. I love it. Then here is Bluebeard. I love the costumes in this one, especially. That's probably my favorite thing about it, is the costumes. And finally, H.P. Lovecraft. I really like that she has taken the time to portray these great writers in the Gothic genre and the stuff that comes out of their head. It's so cool. And here are some pieces inspired by legends, mythology, and folktales. So these next two pieces are from The Little Mermaid. It's really interesting to see how she depicts mermaids here. They're so morbid and predatory, and it really captures kind of the idea of predatory sirens back in Greek mythology instead of, you know, like the sexy woman, whatever. It's pretty cool. These next two pieces are from her series inspired by Hades and Persephone, which is one of my favorite stories in Greek mythology about their eternal love and then the cycling of the year, corresponding with her going to be with him in the underworld and then coming back to Earth to be with her mother. It's just beautiful. So I like this part that is Persephone's return. Passionate, longing, beautiful. And I like that she just feels like the springtime. It's good. And then this is another one of my favorites. This one I have up in my office here above my computer. And this one is Stay With Me. And I like that Abigail portrayed the pomegranate that Hades used to try and get Persephone to stay with him. Because pomegranates are long thought to be the fruit of love or make you fall in love. So I love pomegranates. Honestly, it's my favorite fruit. So good. So this next one is La Llorona. And this is directly from Mexican folklore. Its exact origins are kind of unknown, but it's definitely one of my favorite stories from Mexican folklore. It's just so morbid and scary and spooky. It's great. And as a Latina, I really do appreciate when Gothic artists do try to capture stories or folktales from Latin culture and do so like really well. I love the desperation and the rage that you feel just radiating off of La Llorona. And I love that her dress is still kind of connected to the water as she's like gradually stepping out. It's so cool. Very well done. Brava. And then here is Snow White, Lost in the Woods. Again, beautiful. I love the muted bluish gray tones here. And I love the sense of dread captured in this piece. But it's still beautiful. It's just gorgeous. And then that red just pops. Ah! It's so good. Last but not least, here is a collection of her occult-inspired pieces. So this one's one of my favorites. It's called Danse Macabre. And every time I look at this, I can practically hear the violinist in the Danse Macabre by Sanson. Really good. Really, really good. I can feel the waltz. I can feel the energy coming off of it. I can feel a very morbid party. It's great. And this next one is Fortune Teller. Again, I love the muted colors here because, again, like I said, Abigail Larson's really good at using jewel tones very sparingly, and when she does use them, they really pop and they're really beautiful. She's just wonderful. This next one is The Summoning, and I really like any scene that depicts a seance or some kind of ritual or some kind of gathering where you're trying to summon spirits. It's just great. I like that she's not white. I love her dress. I love the snake. I love the cards on the table. And I love the spooky hands that are coming out to grab her. It's so beautiful. This next one is called Illicit Incantations. I love the flames. I love the spooky imagery. I love the pop of red in the middle. Oh, God, she's just so good at what she does. I'm sorry. This next one is Strange Brew. Another lovely piece. And then here is Till Death Do Us Part. Again, just beautiful. And I can feel like the longing and the sadness projected from the face of the female character within this piece. It's great. I keep saying great. I'm sorry. That's the best way I can describe her work. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you bearing with me in this potentially pretty long video. I just really wanted to shed the spotlight on Abigail Larson and her work so that, you know, you guys often ask me, like, what artist do you suggest? You know, whose work do you like hanging up in your house? Abigail is definitely one of them. And I also wanted to give a good feature to the Darkwood Tarot. I didn't want to be one of those other YouTube channels that just shows the cards in their video and doesn't really talk much about them. It's just like, oh, here's the entire tarot deck so that you don't have any incentive to buy it. There's the Fool, there's the Magician, there's the High Priestess, there's the Empress. You know, I didn't want anything like that. I wanted to actually review this deck as if it were a book review, if that makes any sense. I wanted to go in depth. I didn't want to just show you the pretty pictures. So subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and make sure you hit that bell for notifications. I will leave all of the relevant links for Abigail Larson in the description below so you guys can check her out. She really deserves your support. I will also leave her store in the description below so that you guys can buy pieces to hang up in your home and make it feel a little more fitting, you know, for your dark spirit. You guys are amazing. I love you. Thank you so much to my patrons, and I will see you guys later. Bye.